You're the host, Jason, now. Record, recording. So, for whom is this the first Zoom call, international Zoom call? Who's on for the first time? Anyone?
I'm first time.
Okay, so really what happens here, we're going to answer some questions, and the last 15 minutes or so we'll go into meditation. But what I'd like to encourage everybody, first of all, mute yourselves, please. All right. So, Jason, you muting all? Okay, because I'm still hearing noise. Bruno is not muted. Fine. So what I'd encourage you to do is, even though I'm answering questions at the cognitive level, please open yourselves to the presence that is coming in for all of us. This Zoom call works with the presence of a very large team that is with each one of us, and you might already be able to feel that. So stay connected. Yes, 45 minutes is answering questions, but in a sense, we're still working at an energetic level, connecting with each other, and also in world service, because there's a field that is established between all of us that has a ripple effect out into the world. So stay connected to that energy. Anyone feeling it already? Put your hand up. Okay. Let's stay with that. Someone's not muted. Okay. So I'll read you some questions that have come in. I don't see Sophie here. Maybe I'll come to that later. So Judith asked to tell us about the low-grade inflammation process as a basis for chronic diseases, cancer, depression. What is the emotional symbolic meaning of low-grade inflammation, and how could we use the inflammation point to work on these conditions? And I'm really pleased to speak about this, because we learn the inflammation point really early on, and most of us tend to not go to it. But as we know in these days that inflammation is common due to our lifestyle, due to the electromagnetic field that we're exposed to, the stress, our food chain, GMOs, a variety of things that cause inflammation, as well as negative emotions, stressful emotions. This is something we are discovering medically. We've known this for a long time, that inflammation is the major cause of disease, of cancers, of diabetes, of emotional diseases such as depression, etc. So working with inflammation is vitally important. We're actually doing that all the time, because we are releasing the stressful aspects of all that accumulates in our body. That reduces the inflammatory process. However, the inflammation point, put this into your hard drive so that it can come up more frequently. It is also due to acidity, so we are alkalizing all the time. Every time we reduce stress, every time we balance out the sympathetic nervous system, we reduce stress, alkalize, reduce inflammation. So I don't think there's one symbolic meaning of low-grade inflammation, but it's something that we probably work on all the time. As we come into coherence, into alignment, the inflammatory process is naturally reduced. And now and again, the inflammation point would come up. Judith, any other questions around that?
No, it's fine. Thanks.
Yeah, fine. Good. So moving on from that, from Paula, is it true that some drugs like cortisone, for instance, interrupt body-spirit connection? And if so, if we energize cortisone, for instance, would that side effect be canceled out using a water card? And we do know that drugs that suppress conditions, and cortisone definitely being one of those, there is an effect on the etheric, on our body, spirit, body, energy connection. And the use of, say, for instance, the water card or the wand, which helps to return the spin to a positive spin. And we're going to come to a question here on the inversion, the energy inversion. So, but as we bring everything into a positive spin, what it does, and we've seen this with chemotherapy, with certain drugs that people take, such as insulin and thyroxine, is that it negates or neutralizes side effects. I've seen this several times with chemotherapy, that it eliminates side effects, the side effects that need to be eliminated. There's certain action of, say, chemo or cortisone that you don't want to eliminate because otherwise it negates the reason for taking it. But the principle applies to everything, that when something has a positive spin and you hold the pendulum over it, it could be your food, a supplement, a drug, it is now in harmony with our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual body, depending at what level it goes to. And so the bottom line really is everything we are connected to or exposed to should have a positive spin. The ground that we live on, or that we sleep on, our beds, should have a positive spin. Every time there's a negative spin, basically it causes inflammation. We're coming back to inflammation. So yes, use the water card if you have to take cortisone for any particular reason. At least neutralize it. And using the wand, if you have a wand with a water card, helps to energize it even more. So, Paula, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And could we use also the restore card?
Let me come to the restore card. We'll talk about the restore card. Let's talk about the restore card right now. Who of you have received a restore card? Okay. And I assume you've all got some experience of the restore card, because we're gaining a lot of feedback on the restore card. We're still in the phase of establishing experiences, anecdotal experiences of what happens with a restore card. So it has multiple effects. And please continue to experiment and send me feedback of what you get. And I see a question from Kasia. We are talking about, okay, got that. The new Restore card that has been in the mat from the beginning for the last 2-3 years, but not as an individual card, but the last several months we have it as a separate card. And the common placements, as you know, each card has its common placement. The common placement has been the cell nucleus, the blood point, and recently feedback from Annika in Norway, who's been using it on the soul nucleus, which is a module 6 point at the join of the scapula and the shoulder on the right-hand side, for those of you that have not done module 6. So she finds that many conditions, and particularly emotional patterns, are released at the soul nucleus point. However, we find, and of course on the brain, using it on the pineal point, or if you've done module 6 on the telomeres point. So, and I have a question about the vagus nerve, and you can try the Restore card on the vagus nerve itself, which I'll explain where the vagus nerve is when we get to that question. So the Restore card we've discovered works on injuries, works on pain, and actually it can go anywhere. If any of you have a quick anecdotal experience now, if you want to say something about the Restore card, please do that, because we're gathering information on it. But who's had a positive experience with it? Put your hand up. So, yeah. So I think we're all discovering its tremendous potency. And I am sure, test it out, please don't believe me, but it can also work on food and substances. So please do test that out. Okay? So, any questions on the Restore card?
Jeff, when we were together in Module 6, we tried putting the Restore card on the wand for pain. Would that be an application as well?
On the what?
We put it on the wand for pain.
Yeah. Right.
Would that be an application as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So you know that you can put any card on the wand to stream that energy through the energy of the wand, which will amplify it. And we did that on somebody for pain. Do you remember what the results were, David?
Well, the first person was you with your tooth. How were the results?
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, so I used it on myself, but I think we used ones on somebody with the Restore card. Anyway, it worked very well for me. So just put the Restore card on the wand itself, stream it in. Yeah.
Could I ask a question? If you've got somebody on the mat, so it's already got the Restore card in the mat,
Yeah.
It's okay to apply the Restore to a specific point.
Absolutely.
And that goes for all the other cards as well, presumably.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So it may need to be, a card in the mat may need to be applied to the body in a particular way, particularly the Restore card. And the Restore card really is aimed, its original intention is to restore proper function to an organ, gland, tissue, so it can be used to connective tissue, etc. So please try it out. Please give me feedback, because we want to do a write-up in time that is based on people's experience. So I'd really appreciate that. There's a question here about the difference between circulation point, which is here, and circulation here, and circulatory system. So circulatory system is simply working with the whole system. circulation, which I'm sure you've discovered, comes up when the body wants to increase circulation to a particular part of the body. It will come up when you're working with injury and scar tissues and pain. The body wants to provide circulation to that area of blood, of lymph, of energy, of chi, whatever. So it's enhancing. The circulatory system is just the circulatory system. Cardiovascular system and meridians. I am not sure why that question, but the cardiovascular system does work. Heart, arteries, veins, all of that, and meridians is meridians. Okay. So in addition, the lymphatic system and blood, where there is also some circulatory aspects. So yes, if lymphatic comes up, blood comes up, circulation can come up to enhance the circulation of those substances. Okay. So there's a question about, is there a possibility in future to learn from teachers all over the world through online training sessions rather than in person? Maybe for some modules. With technology advancement, it will be great for students to learn from teachers who have special and unique skills. So we are exploring this. David and I have spent quite a bit of time looking at platforms. We've looked at apps that are looking at providing some of the information of our modules, such as anatomy, physiology, some information around the points before a module online. So a lot of the more informative stuff can go into a online platform. So, and then we come to a live workshop. Nothing replaces a live workshop, but it would be a great advantage if students with a certain code for the particular workshop will learn the basic information so that we don't have to teach that in the workshop. Tanya has been exploring that. A number of us have been going in that way. So that is in process. So it is sometime in the future, but it is in process. Micah, I saw you here, right? Where are you? Might be in the other screen. But her question is, in biophoton therapy, they talk a lot about spin inversion and how basically other treatments, including muscle testing, don't work, or maybe even does the opposite if one has spin inversion. What is your perception on this? I've had great results with biophoton therapy. Then this comment that happened to come about during my last session threw me off, as over the past few years, I've also had great experience and results with lots of other therapies, including life alignment. So what he's working with, Johan, in biophoton therapy is what we speak about is the correct spin. When we're exposed to geopathic stress or electromagnetic energy or any negative energy, it affects the spin of our cells, of the atom molecules. And we know from the experience with many healing appliances and equipment that if you are exposed to geopathic stress, if there's geopathic stress in the body, and we have a point for that, so we can test that. If we have geopathic stress in the body, no treatment will work. And why is that? Because it is affecting the spin of the nucleus, the photons, and biophoton therapy does one therapy using a machine, an electronic equipment that helps to balance this. But if you go for a treatment on Vega testing, on BCOM, and any of this equipment, radionics, the first thing you test, and we should be doing that as well, you check if there's geopathic stress. And that's why we give people a rainbow card for their home or personal protector, because that's what those cards do. They help to correct that spin inversion and bring people back into the Schumann resonance. That's what that's what a lot of it do. Because when we have spin inversion, we get out of the Schumann resonance, which is the basic resonance of the feeling of which we are in harmony. Someone speaks better. Do you want to mute there, please? Right, thank you. So does that answer your question, Micah? Can't hear you. You've got on mute. What's that? When I'm not hearing you at all, your microphone's not working. But anyway, we can speak further on this, but that's the basic thing in life alignment. So if you eat a food, it should have a positive spin. If it's a negative spin, it's affecting every cell. And if we have an accumulation of anti-clockwise spin, which is a very physical and real thing, very little works on us. So we want to bring the body to a point, and this is why we use the cards, we use the mat, is to restore the body to its natural spin. So when the vortices are out of alignment, we know the vortices, the energy centers we learn in body spin, when they're out of alignment, which affects the body alignment point, all of that is connected to negative spin inversion. So the ideal is that each vortex spins in the right direction. We know on the left side of the body, the knee, the ankle, the hip should spin clockwise. On the opposite side, it's anti-clockwise. And that's got nothing to do with the spin of that we test with the earth. That is the polarity of the body. And when we are fully aligned in coherence with the earth, the body, the heart, the mind, spirit, all the spins line up, and then things work. So when we know when a person is out of their body, the body alignment point is weak, there is difficulty in working with that person. So the priorities are designed, we don't even have to think about it. The priorities are designed to bring somebody into presence, right? And it's all about presence. But if someone's out of their body and you're trying to deal with issues, of course they were out of their body at the time of that issue, but it's designed to bring a person into empowerment, out of victim, into alignment. And that's why at the end of a session, most people are back into alignment. The body alignment point tests strong. Are we clear on that? Any questions? So this is another thing. Show when you ask to show a yes and no with muscle testing. Some people just drop their arm when I push. And then I try to rephrase, but we end up getting into a brain-head situation where they end up really using muscle testing and holding on. So in a way, I get stuck in getting started, already making it difficulty to actually do the balance. All right. So my suggestion is you ask that silently. Show me a yes, it should go strong. Show me a no. So it's not mental. So if things go wrong at the mental level, they're influencing the test, just do it silently. Now, you speak about muscle testing. Just to clarify something, in life alignment, we do not do muscle testing. This may be a surprise to some of you, but we never do muscle testing. When one does the typical kinesiological muscle testing, where you are challenging a muscle, which is when you push down on the muscle, that throws tension through the meridians and can affect the spin inversion. And that's why early on, I realized that, first of all, it's difficult to get a positive answer. Early on, I realized that we have to find a system that doesn't challenge muscles, which most kinesiologists do. So we use the joint lock. So when you're testing a straight arm, we are pushing there into the body, just about 15, 20 degrees down. That engages the lock of the shoulder, or if you're using the elbow, the lock of the elbow, which does not challenge or stress any muscle. So that will not affect spin inversion. Okay? So please be aware that we call it muscle testing because, or applied kinesiology, that's what most people understand. But if you say to somebody, I'm going to joint lock you, they could have raise a few concerns about that, all right? So we won't joint lock people. We just call it muscle testing. All right?
Sorry.
What's that?
I was just saying, is that because we're weedy?
Exactly. Seedy weedy. All right. So I think we've covered the spin inversion by photon, how to balance the vagus nerve. Pamela, where are you? Saw you. Anyway, you hear something.
Good morning.
Let's see. So there we go. You feeling all right? You okay? Good. So the vagus nerve, are you all familiar with the vagus nerve? Yes. It's one of the most important nerves and largest nerves in the body that connects with your brain, your lungs, your bowel, everything. And when the vagus nerve is out of balance, we get into sympathetic mode and we get stressed. So the most important thing for the body, which we are doing all the time, by the way, we just now have a point for the vagus nerve because the vagus nerve is stimulated, which helps to balance it. When we come into relaxation mode and our breathing relaxes and everything relaxes in the body. If you had to test the vagus nerve after a balance, it will be well balanced. There are many systems to balance the vagus nerve. I would go onto YouTube. However, those are using little sparkers, there's shock things. Is a system that does it with that. Deep breathing balances the vagus nerve. Washing your face with cold water. Balancing your microbiome affects your vagus nerve. And the opposite, the vagus nerve affects your microbiome. And so they have an integral relationship between your digestion, your lungs, your breath, your heart, your brain. There is a system that's difficult to show you on the video now, using the wand. So if you go onto YouTube and you look for stimulating vagus nerve, you'll see a system using a little, have you seen those sparkers? You press, it's like a pen, you press it and it gives you a little shock. And it touches the points of the congestion, left and right, and center, and works with the balancing points, the back of the head, which is the hindbrain, midbrain, forebrain. So look for that on YouTube, and whatever they do with the Sparker, which, by the way, is very reasonable. You can buy it in the States for $15, $20. You can use it with a wand. So just try that. Using the wand instead of the... So you'll see that on YouTube. Go on there. But you can also place the restore card on the vagus nerve point, which is behind the head in the middle of the cranial nerves. When you do 4 fingers at the back of the head, it's right in the middle. That's the vagus nerve point. You can tap on that, or you can use the restore or check for other cards. Restore would really help with that. Is that all right, Pamela?
Jeff, once I heard you speak of using the Breath of Life card.
Right.
Someplace in addition to another point, you balancing the vagus nerve.
To balance the vagus nerve.
Yeah. Where would you put the Breath of Life card? On the respiratory?
On the respiratory. Because the breath is one of the key aspects that balances the vagus nerve. So you can use the air card and the breath of life, because the breath of life is connecting with the cosmic breath. And as you do that, everything relaxes and comes into alignment. So yes, use any of those expansion cards. Breath of Life, Trust card, Tree of Life, etc. Heart card, to bring a high frequency in the body, which helps us relax. Okay. So Linda, is Linda here? Talking with Pamela. Now, Pamela, you here, you can answer this, about wand balances. And she mentioned that last year in Module 6, Jeff demonstrated a wand balance to help get a client out of their head intellect. Can you please ask him? So Pamela, what did I do?
You had, I remember 2 points. I don't know if it was the soul nucleus and the pineal.
Right.
I mean the pituitary, sorry. One was pointed in and one was pointed out, but I don't remember which. Does that recall? Do you recall?
I don't, I'm afraid. So
I've tried it.
Intention. Just know that anything that creates a high frequency, we know that with the mat, we know that sitting in the Merkaba, if you're in that frequency, the mind goes still, very still. So I think that's an individual thing, as what circuit helps to bring that frequency and still the mind. And I mean, you can use the wand on between your ribs with a lot of pressure and induce pain. That will get you out of your head completely and get you into your body. So use the wand in that way. In other words, whatever's right for that person. Is that all right? Don't do that at home, please. Listen to me. All right, so we have 1 or 2. Jason, home alignment, when we activate the heart center, rays and spirals start appearing. Do you all know what we're talking about? When we do home alignment, who's done home alignment? Put your hand up. When you balance the heart center of a room, there are rays that come out of the heart center that are straight lines, and spirals begin to develop, okay? if there were none before, and multiplying. Where are they coming from, and what is the heart center doing that so many appear? I've planted. All right, so let's answer that. Jason, you there? Okay. So what is the heart center? The heart center is a center that develops by virtue of the fact that there is cosmic energy coming down. Okay? Typically, the heart center is not even there in most cases. We understand that chi comes in from doors and windows, from the earth, from the air. But in home alignment, we activate alignment with the universe. So the heart center, if you can imagine, is a beam of light that comes down into the home or into each space even, and distributes out. And it does so in two ways. It distributes out in lines. Now, there is often a heart center, but there may be just a few straight lines, which is the masculine aspect. It's reflecting the environment. It's reflecting the construction of the house, which may be very sharp lines, vertical lines, very masculine. And most homes, unless they're old homes and built with curves or there's a lot of plants, most homes do not have any feminine energy until we bring it in with soft materials and plants and water. So the heart center, when it is truly connected vertically, whereby placing a heart card on the door or activating it through home alignment, creates many of these rays, these vertical straight lines. And when there's feminine energy, and I've gone into buildings designed by Gaudi in Barcelona, where there already was a balance between masculine and feminine energy because of the curves, the many aspects of the construction, of the design. So we bring a balance of masculine and feminine energies into a house because you have to balance yin and yang. If it's all yang, it's going to be completely out of balance and affect the occupants of a home. So that's what the heart center is all about. Now, when there's a lot of negativity in a home, it cannot come down clearly. So it will have to go to a place where there is an opening and not filled with negativity. So we have to release the negativity, harmonize all aspects of the home. We use the flow chart to that, so that the heart center is enlarged, expands, and is balanced in masculine, feminine energies. And that's why we do the heart center activation. You got that? Anyone understand that? Okay, one understood it. I'm so pleased, at least if there's one. Anyone else?
Jeff?
God.
Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah, so if the heart center is just balancing masculine and feminine, could design also help activate rays and spirals?
Absolutely.
Ah.
But not just design. You must understand. It has to be, because you can have a beautifully designed building with inharmonious energies between yin and yang. And it may be very yang because of masculine domination or aggression or some friction between the male-female elements in the home. So it's not just the design. The design is typically brings harmony so that the occupants reflect that harmony in their experience and relationship. So it must be both. It's design, we bring soft curvaceous furniture and materials and plants that do that. But that brings a softness, that brings a feminine element. But we have to balance the yin and yang. And that's the process of home alignment. So we've planted a few generators around South Africa and now Egypt, and I'm sure many practitioners have done the same in their own respective countries and travels. I think you told me that generators are forming a grid, that they are connected. What is the long-term vision of the life alignment team with these cards? It's a good question. So you're familiar with the fact that generators are placed in, it's meant to balance a large area like a city, which is determined by plan. It is the intersection between two ley lines often that helps to spread throughout a city. And we've placed these cards in many cities around the world. And they do form a grid. There is like a matrix, a light grid of energy between homes that have a generator and cities and places. Or 5, outside of Canada, I came to Cape Town. We just received the cards at that time. Before I was able to download anything, I had to place many rainbow cards in many homes to create a matrix of light. So yes, what we are doing in consciousness, as helped by the cards, is creating a matrix of light. And so a generator being a very powerful card when placed on the right spot in a rock or a stone helps to create a matrix, as together with the generators in each home. So it is a very earthy card. We know that it's earth matrix, but also a light matrix, particularly as it is on a rainbow card. Does that make sense to you, Jason? Does that answer question? So I think the vision and intention of the team is just to bring light. And Diana, the small generator is another factor here. The more of us that wear the generator energy, which on the body, the small generator is adequate, that too creates a light matrix that also helps to heal the earth and protect ourselves. So the intention is to have as many people wear that, which creates a massive field and matrix of energy. Thank you for that. Someone asked about 4G, 5G. I don't know about 5G yet. I don't know, has anyone experienced 5G? It hasn't come out in most areas. It's starting in the United States. It's serious stuff, 5G, because it doesn't travel long distances. So you need many boosters and antennas, and which will be placed on homes and schools all over the place. Whereas 4G, you have cell phone towers, masts that can be spread out and go long distances. 5G is going to introduce havoc because there will be boosters and masts all over the place, on homes, on buildings, on all over the place. So when it comes, we'll have to discern then what cards we need. Right now, the cell phone card already includes generator energy, but we add the small generator, which I'm assuming will handle 5G with the small generator. Okay, that's my sensing right now. Okay, so someone asked about someone with a tumor, and which is metastasized, and how to use wands. We do not apply the tumor, the wand, directly into a tumor, but the best thing to do is ask. because the ones can be used to boost the immune system, to detoxify, etc. By the way, the restore card on the cell nucleus, just for your information, initiates a very deep detox, which I underwent in Italy for a few weeks. And I was in serious condition, and in Amsterdam. So don't do it while you're working like I did. But it took me a week when I got back to London just to rest and allow the detox to continue. And I felt completely different afterwards. So if you want to initiate a detox, stick the restore card on the cell nucleus point and check each day. You tape it on, how long you need to keep it on. It's very uncomfortable. I warn you in advance. You will feel the detox. But just ask, do we need to keep it on? I was told, yes, keep it on, as lousy as I felt. So time for our meditation and our balance. So thank you for the questions. I hope they were useful to you and answered some important stuff. So what we do, we're going to check out what we are needing to manifest, all of us together or individually, and then what's blocking. It's a simple process. We might get 1 or 2 words from the manifestation list, 1 or 2 words from the emotional patterns. So what's coming up to manifest? Is a word we work with a lot, expansiveness. And generally these words are very connected with what we've discussed, with what's going on. So staying in an expansive mode. And the other word, gratitude. And tolerance. So, gratitude, expansiveness, and tolerance. I think in the world today that we see, there is a need for tolerance, isn't there? So I think it's a very appropriate word because this applies to current situation. And rather than judgment and projections, the experience of gratitude, that then helps to expand our field. Does that make sense to anybody? And you can use those words in any permutation. And what's blocking that? Question, doubt, meaning and the word taxed, questioning, which drains our energy, taxes our sense of who we are. So doubt, questioning, mental, comes from the mind, of course, that doubt. So moving from tolerance, which is also a mental construct, we judge, we project, coming into gratitude, which brings us into the heart. Okay, so and the heart expands. We all know that we have a heart torus. When we exercise gratitude, it expands not only the body torus, but the heart torus. So questioning with our mind, whatever happens, which implies that we're not always trusting our energy. In other words, it diminishes. Well, I'm sure we can interpret that in many ways. For everyone, it'll be something different. Does that make sense for a balance? All resonating? All in favor? Stick your hands up. So let's see where it takes us, and I'll sense what is coming through as I guide us through this process. So let's be still and breathe, activating the vagus nerve. And just let's follow our breath. We know too that a lot of the intolerance and judgment is from our own mind talk, our own ego and superego that brings up self-judgment. So in a sense, what this balance is saying is to tolerate, is to welcome whatever comes up internally, as and that will have an effect externally. So that we're not questioning ourselves and who we are and what's our purpose and what we're doing. Rather, we are expressing gratitude for our lives, for our choices, our choice to incarnate in the very families we've incarnated into. Because often it's ourselves and our immediate family that we are most intolerant of. So we are tolerant of our own internal and close world around us. And of the chaos that exists. So rather we go into a transcendent frequency, a transcendent state that allows us to look at the world from a higher perspective, with compassion, with understanding. And feel the gratitude for ourselves that we have chosen to be a beacon of light within that chaos. That we've come together, our life alignment, and of course, millions of others, to be a family of light. We've chosen that, so it's part of our creation. And as we tolerate each other and feel gratitude for each other, it creates an expansiveness. Both individually and collectively. That spreads, as we spoke about in the generator. It creates a matrix of energy across the globe. So we become that generator. And would do anything to stay true to that. That's why we have come. And that's why we are supported by this enormous presence that is with each one of us now. And there is a deep love for ourselves and honoring of our life choice and purpose. And a deep love for each other. And this expansiveness allows us to feel the oneness that we share. A unified field of light that brings so much healing and love to the planet. So if anybody wants to at any point, just open your eyes and look at the screens of faces. With a deep sense of gratitude that we've come together as a family. It's a family we have some choice about. Feel the love and the gratitude. I know my heart is filled with such gratitude and love. for each one of us. So I want to thank you all for being part of that family, being present in every moment of your lives to bring life together. Because it is a collective endeavor. You can't do it alone. So, are our hearts expanded and overflowing? Gratitude with love. Was it as good for you as it was for me? Great. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for being on the call. Being present together. So, and allow the presence to continue. Well. All good?
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, everyone. It's been amazing. And Jeff, that was spectacular as usual.
Thank you, Jason.
Much love to everyone.
Thanks for all you've done, Jason.
Goodbye, Jason, and thank you so much for all your work. And welcome, Elizabeth.
All your efforts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jason.
Elizabeth, thank you.
so much, Jason.
Grazie, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
And thank you, Jeff.